Hello there, and welcome to episode 2 of my tutorial series for CDDA. I'm Icon, and in this episode we're going to cover up the essential basics that you should ideally own before you go into any dangerous situation. There's a couple of things that are really important and, well, I'd also say vital to your survival to have under any circumstances. Step 1, a weapon. We're right now wielding our fists, and since I don't have any unarmed combat style, we need a weapon, like for real. Step 2, a shelter and some supplies. Luckily, this evac shelter does exactly do the trick. We can sleep on these benches, and we have a safe place. So far, it is safe. We have supplies in here. There's always water and protein rations in an evac shelter you start at. And therefore, this part on the list, we already checked it out. That's why I went for the evacuee start, because you always start out with a halfway decent shelter. Step 3, medical supplies, because if we get wounded, we need to be able to treat our wounds. Otherwise, bad things happen. Step 4, a steady supply of clean water and food. Step 5, a vehicle. Step 4 and 5 are, well, more optional. Well, no, step 4 is pretty vital, but you can delay it for a couple of days. But the first 3 things are absolutely vital. So to help ourselves to a weapon, we're going to cover that up after we have checked if the shelter has any medical supplies for us, because that's something, well, most of the time you find that in your shelter. So let's wander around. So, we already knew from the last episode, movement, well, I do love with a numpad. Just make sure numlock is lit, and we're going to head over here and examine all the item stacks here. Pressing G lets us plunder the next best tile, and just see the tile aimed at is being marked with these white borders. So we check out this stack pile here. So there's a flashlight, a emergency whistle, emergency jacket, FEMA evacuation pamphlet, and a couple of plastic items. None of these items qualify either as weapon or as medical supply, so we're going to leave that out like that. This is one thing that I can strongly recommend to you in this game. Learn to stay focused on a certain thing that you actually need right now, because this game is an item fest. There are so many things you're gonna see. Staying focused on something you actually need is really helpful. So we're going to check out the counter. Again, press G. Scrub brush, FEMA evacuation pamphlet, and 2 cardboard boxes of detergent. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about most of these items, about their use and such, when the time comes. Just leave with the I just leave this with the notion that I don't need any of these. There is a readout about the damage of a simple scrub brush, but let's be honest, 1 bash damage. It doesn't have too many moves per attack, but this we all can imagine that this doesn't really qualify as a good weapon. So let's check out these. Now when I press G, I can ask where I want to pick up. So when there are multiple tiles to pick up from, the game prompts you to check out where you want to go. If you are lazy and you don't want to examine every single tile like that, you can also go for the advanced inventory management found with this slash button here. The advanced inventory management, we're going to go into that quite more often in the future, has a lot of different features for us. For now, the Advanced Inventory Manager provides us with one thing, and that's an overview about the items in our vicinity. So on the left side, we see the surrounding area, all 9 squares, and we can see there are folded emergency blankets, another emergency jacket, and on the right side, we see our own inventory. I'll leave it with that, and just say that you can mark anything and press enter to put it into your inventory. We're going to pick up one of those folded emergency blankets, and as you see here, there's also an indicator on which tile they are lying at. Don't worry, we're going to go back into this menu once we need the other functions of that. For now, I'm going to pick up one of them by pressing enter, and you see here there's AMT tells us the amount. There's a stack of 4 blankets lying here on that tile, 6 on that tile, 7 on that tile. We got blankets for days. Now, with that blanket in my inventory, I just go over there onto that bench, and now I want to use that blanket as kind of a bed. It's not that good, but it's better than nothing. So I press the A button for activation. Well, let's see. Or how does the game call it? Apply or use item. There it is. Here. Small a. Very, very much used thing in this game. So when we're pressing A, we get a readout of the things that we can use out of our inventory. So right now in my inventory, there's the folded emergency blanket we had picked up. There's also a matchbook, pocket knife, and a smartphone. We can use all these items. So for example, you could select that matchbook and start a fire somewhere. Don't do that unless you know where you really want to do a fire. You can just torch that whole building, just like that. So you've had your warnings. Whenever there are 3 dots like these, that means the item has several different things you can do with it. So we're pressing enter on the pocket knife, and then we get into a menu which gives you more options. Many very modern items like smartphones or pocket computers have these functionalities, but also advanced tools like an entrenching tool, which you can use for several things. You get the idea. We're right now using this to unfold the emergency blanket, pressing enter. Ta-da! It's now lying there. So whenever we want to sleep, we just need to go onto that tile, press enter to open up the action menu, go into the miscellaneous tab, and go for this one to sleep. You can, of course, go for the sleep button directly. There are many things in this game that I don't use via their hotkeys. The menu you open when you press enter includes basically everything which you can find in the key bindings. Well, that's not entirely true, but you get the idea. So if you ever wonder what you can or can't do, browsing this actions menu can help you a lot. Just don't accidentally commit suicide. So with that being said and done, we have set up our shelter. We don't have a weapon though, and we haven't found anything which we could use as a weapon. So let's go one more time downstairs with the page down button and check out if we haven't forgot anything down there, but it doesn't look like we did. Nothing down here can be used as a weapon. Luckily, you can easily craft yourself a weapon, and crafting is an insane thing to do in CDDA. So we see here, this button opens up the craft items menu. We're going to get in there, and here you see all this madness. Up here we see the different tabs of items we can produce, and by pressing tab you can go through these riders here, you know already, tab and back tab, which is done via shift tab. And these here are being navigated with the left and right arrow keys, and this is navigated by up and down arrow keys. So we are right now interested in creating ourselves a simple weapon. So a cudgel is one of the easiest things to craft. So we see here the crafting menu. I want to go over it quite quickly. You see here what kind of skill you'll need. The most things here are pretty self-explanatory. There's always tools required for the crafting procedure and components required for the crafting procedure. Since this is a very vast and deep thing, we're just going to stay with the cudgel, and if you are really overwhelmed by that, 2 things. Pressing the F key in here brings you into a search menu. If you really know what you want to do, just search for cudgel, and there you go. If you know you want to create a bandage, press F, bandage, there you go. So pressing F and searching for something, really helpful. And another thing that I really like to use is to favorite something. Oops, didn't see that right. So here, need to move the camera because the so that star icon here for the favorite function is what you're looking for. So we're pressing that star, and now the cudgel sits in our favorites. Pressing escape to get out of here, reopening the crafting menu, and now we see that we have the cudgel in our favorites menu. This way you can easily navigate that stuff a little bit more easy at least. To give you a brief overview, this is basically a list of everything you can craft right now. This is a list of everything your character knows how to craft right now. This list will get expanded by increasing skill levels, reading new books, and yeah, that's it basically. So if you're annoyed by all these new icons there, just like I am, there's a solution. You can press capital V to mark everything as red. Double do that to mark all recipes as red. So here you can go and get that removed. Because the first time you might be looking at all of these things, but most of the time, you know, look alone at that food section. There are so many things. You don't want to read all that at once. There's a last thing that I want to talk about before we go towards crafting that cudgel. The game is pretty intelligent based around the environment and the knowledge what you have around yourself. So for example, the game lets me craft soapy water even though I don't have that detergent on my body. The game has realized that there's detergent around here in that building, and that's why I can't craft it. It's pretty good. Many things get a lot easier. You don't have to have everything on your character. In your hideout shelter, somewhere in the closer vicinity usually is enough. Just keep in mind, this doesn't work when you traverse levels, height levels. Okay, so let's recheck out that cudgel recipe. So you can use either a plank, a pool cue, or a stick. The cutting tool, what's that actually? So we press I for inventory, open inventory, small I, and there's that pocket knife. I'm pressing small E to examine it. And as we see here, this is a readout of the item. We see the kind of damage it does, and we also see down here the qualities the item has. So butchering quality, 1 point of cutting quality, 1 point of fine cutting quality. About qualities, the highest matters. You won't get 5 points of cutting quality if you have 5 pocket knives. That's not how it works. It's about the best available quality on a tool. And since we are lucky enough to start with a pocket knife, we got that done. So what we do need now is the other component of that cudgel. So plank, a pool cue, or a stick. So, well, there are several ways to tackle that problem. So we can now go downstairs and just get there and smash something. Smash nearby terrain, small s. Press S, smash, smash, smash. Repeat that for a while. As long as here in the text box you don't get a readout that the game tells you that you don't seem to do any damage, proceed until this happens. To give you the other idea, let's start smashing the wall. For a while. Here, you don't seem to be damaging the white wall. If your smashing is futile, the game tells you at some point. Now, let's press the G button to get something, and now we have found splintered wood, nails, but most importantly, the plank. Now, when we want to pick that up, something up here goes red, and this is your inventory management. Basically, in this game, you'll have to have a container for everything. If you don't have a container for the item you want to pick up, it's going to get into your hands. So up here, this is your weight. First is the actual amount of weight you're carrying. Second is the maximum weight. Next up is the volume. And here, check it out here. So volume of the items measured in liters. And the next, that's the volume of the stuff you want to pick up. And down here, you see how your inventory changes to that. So we actually would have enough volume on our containers that we carry on our body, because this is the entirety of our container somehow. But you see here the length is over exceeding, because yes, CDDA measures the items in volume and length and wait, just like in real life. So to pick up that plank, we're going to press enter now, and the game tells us now we don't have enough capacity. What do? We're wielding that plank. Now we get that 3 times because we tried to pick up 3 planks at a time. If you want to do that more elegantly, sorry guys, now I forget what I did there. I'm going to explain that. If you want to do that more elegantly, you can't just tell the game to directly wield one of those things, because sometimes by the time you know that you don't have any containers for those planks, so might as well directly wield them. So pressing small W and just selecting one of those planks to wield them. Press enter here now. Done. So other thing, dropping items, by the way, is small d. Capital D, drop to adjacent tile. That's what I used a moment before. So capital D, drop where? I want to drop onto that tile, so I press the up arrow button and now select that plank. Here the game is a little bit weird. So if you want to drop something, you need to drop, you use the right arrow key. So, and then it gets marked with that little plus sign and it gets into that list. We don't want to drop that matchbook, so we press the right button one more time to unselect it. For some weird reason, we can only change the tabs here by pressing either tab or the left arrow key. This menu really confused the hell out of me when I was new here, so that's why I waste so many words on that. Now, we're selecting the plank, right arrow key, enter, dropped. You'll get used to that, don't you worry. So the other thing you can use, you go back into the advanced inventory management, remember? And over there, you just get over to one of them planks and press enter. You have no space for plank, it doesn't work. Okay, I thought you could wield that. Why that? My bad. Okay, so wielding the plank is the easiest way. I thought you could just select one of them. Okay. The little thing learning myself. So with that plank, we want to craft that cudgel now, right? So craftable in the dark, impossible, and it's dark around us. So we need to go upstairs with that plank and let some light in. So we're walking against that curtain thingy, and now get it back into the crafting menu. And now you see that the actual recipe turned white because all the pre-necessities are done. Pressing enter, and now crafting in progress. And you craft cudgel from memory, you wield your cudgel, and voila, we're finally armed. Crafting a cudgel is one of the most elemental things that practically every character can do, because it doesn't need any skill, fabrication skill 0, done in 5 minutes with any cutting tool. And a weapon, let's go into the inventory management, press E. Every weapon that deals a average damage per second above 10 is pretty okay. Always measure the 2-hit bonus. If you are really bad at fighting, a high 2-hit bonus is really good, and the moves per attack. Everything below 100 moves per attack can be considered as a fast weapon. Everything exceeding 100 moves per attack moves into the medium or heavy category. So we see here typical damage per second, and most importantly for the character we're using for this tutorial, it's compatible with Escrima, which means we can use our fighting style with that, which increases the amount of damage we can do by an insane amount. I'm going to explain the rules of fighting styles and stuff like that later down the road. For now, it's enough to know that using Escrima on anything is really awesome. One or two words about Escrima and why I recommend it so much to beginners. Escrima is a very improvisation-heavy technique. And when we go here into the info tab, let's see if I can't know it's among the, it's among combat. So into the combat tab and select martial arts style. And here we can get a readout about Escrima. So I can't select which style I want to go, but I'm pressing F1 here to get a readout. And here we're scrolling down here, and sadly, I don't get information about what you can use Escrima with, but you can use Escrima with a pair of scissors or a screwdriver and do decent damage with that, and this is why I love that technique so much. Okay, enough about that. Now, the next question is, where do we get medical supplies from? This is where we're gonna go exploring. Usually, the first amount of medical supplies lies around in the evac shelter, and there's no problem to do that. There's two types of medical supplies which I personally find invaluable: bandages to heal your wounded body parts, and antiseptics to disinfect nasty zombie bite wounds, which would turn into infected limbs, which can result in very, very nasty deaths. So our first thing we want to do, let's get back into the crafting system. And since I know what I want to do, I'm pressing F and I'm searching for the bandage. So for now, we can create a makeshift bandage out of rags. Needs no tailoring. Well, it does train tailoring, but it doesn't need any skill. First number is your actual skill, second number is the necessary skill. So we're going to need rags. Where could somebody get rags from? If you don't know anything about it, always try first to ask your crafting system. It's a good buddy in that regard, and as we can see here, so we can create rags out of patchwork cotton clothing parts or cotton sheets. Now, this doesn't necessarily make you any smarter where to get these parts from, but sometimes you've already passed past something. Sometimes you saw that certain type of material and you're like, ah, I can use that. So if you don't know where to get a material from, ask your crafting system. Sometimes it knows. And ask it more often, especially when your skills here increase. This menu here, by the way, is your character sheet. Player info, it's called. Brought up with the add button. Okay, so we leave our sanctuary for the first time because the priorities are set. I have a weapon right now. I have a shelter. I don't have medical supplies. I put these into exactly that order because I think a weapon is one of the most vital and important things in this game. Even more important than a shelter because, you know, you have to deal with those baddies. So there's a car outside, and the safe mode is now telling me again that we've spotted a praying mantis. The safe mode can be disabled with the exclamation mark button, so I'm going to do that. But I'm also going to move away, and I'm checking now where that praying mantis is actually sitting at. So capital V, and we see that monster is actually hostile on me. And let's see. Let's zoom in and press V, capital V again to see this thing. So it doesn't have a little red exclamation mark next to it, so that means it's not immediately hostile to me. Since I have no clue how strong that monster is, and well, I hate to break it to you, but most of the time you are going to be quite clueless unless you have fought it at once. First off, we are unarmored, out of medical supplies, so let's make a run for it and hope that thing doesn't follow you. Another thing, if you die early on, you die early on. It's a roguelike. Sometimes you spawn under very unfair circumstances right next to monsters that are almost impossible to escape from as a beginner. It's just like that. You can just re-roll your character and put in the same character you had before. Okay, we're now walking down the road. I'm trying to stay on the road as much as I can because outside of the roads, it's most of the time more dangerous. When you start out with these things, always check out for landmarks that you can't see. For example, here, that evac shelter is something that I want to check out. So we're going to walk towards there. I'm going to re-enable the safe mode now to keep going. By the way, a cudgel can also be created out of other materials, so a stick or a pool cue would do. Capital V again, and you see all the items around you. And outside world has a lot of items. A hickory root, flanking rocks, a pine bow, but most importantly, sometimes you just find sticks lying around in the environment. Right now we're not that lucky, but if you don't want to smash a part of your environment, you can just go for that. And now we found a corpse of a human. Nice, isn't it? So sometimes you just find these in the environment, and that's also a reason why I keep the safe mode on here. Because, you know, sometimes things just spawn and they are dangerous. Here's the thing. Let's get over to that corpse. You see that yellow exclamation mark right next to the corpse. We're going to press G to plunder it. We have no clue who or what killed that person here. We see the clothing the person had on herself. Also, you see here these color markings. These are the status the item is in. This is not really an HP marker. This is more depicting how much, well, how many times it can be damaged before it's completely torn. Yes, but also these items grow less effective the more damage they grow. So a weapon gets a lower damage per second the more damage it grows. Armor does the same thing, and so on and so forth. So you want to have items on a good quality. If they are on ideal quality, they're typed out like my cudgel here without any of these color markers. But that yellow exclamation mark, it means that this person is not yet pulped. Pulping bodies sounds pretty gruesome, but in this game, basically every dead person will rise up again, including you, by the way. Theoretically. The yellow exclamation mark gives you a warning that this body might rise. To get over that, you need to smash nearby terrain. And there we go. Corpse is thoroughly pulped. You see the exclamation mark is now gone, which tells you that this body is safe now. So I don't want any of these items right now. There's a lot of things we could do with these items. You can pick them up, you can disassemble them, you can wear them. More about that in upcoming episodes. For today, I wanted to go for medical supplies. And look at that, there's a pipe on the road. And another thing, examining nearby terrain. No, look around here, semicolon or X. Very useful thing. You get this menu I was using here before, where you can just use the arrow keys to check out your environment, basically. It's pretty useful when you have no clue what something is. You get a little bit of a readout about how much cover it provides, if it's smashable, or flammable, and so on and so forth. So a pipe, as you see here, is a Escrima compatible weapon, so we could have actually saved us the trouble of crafting the cudgel. There was a weapon on the road. And a pipe is also a very, very useful thing in many crafting recipes. But we don't need it right now. We just go over there. So I want to go towards this evac shelter. So if you don't want to walk all these roads manually, you can just press your map button here, view map, small m, and here press W to preview route and press again to confirm. So we're going to use the arrow keys to get over that. One times capital W to preset the route, another time, and now the game tells you or asks you how you want, if you want to travel. And now auto travel commences. That's a very neat way of getting around. Just make sure you have safe mode on, and sometimes the auto navigation has a malfunction and navigates you into monsters. If that ever happens and you don't want to die because of that, Alt F4, reload the game. I don't consider that cheating if the automatic system lures you into death. Just so you know. Alright, now we have that evac shelter here, and let's open that place. And as we see here, it is a very similar bunker, and there are a lot of items here. So it's exactly the same setup as the bunker we were in. Here we find a light disposable battery. Batteries are invaluable in the post-apocalypse. Basically all electrical items run on batteries, and batteries are very valuable, okay? Collect batteries. In case you didn't know, batteries. Jokes aside, we are now looking for the items here, and most specifically, I'm looking for medical supplies. So we see here there's a lot of food here. Tin cans containing beans, can opener, another useful tool, and protein rations, electric lantern. So that's a light source, for example. large fire extinguisher, all manner of different things, but nothing we need right now. So let's go downstairs and check out this area there. And maybe we get more lucky here. Yeah. So in these evac shelters, you quite often find these first aid kit boxes. So we pick this up, right arrow key to pick it up, or pressing E to mark it however you want. You can also go into the advanced inventory manager to just get over there and pick that up. Wait a sec. So if that ever happens, you see here, the one side is your worn items and the other side is my inventory. You can just press A to get back the surrounding area, just so you know. So we're going to pick that up with the enter button, and now we have access to our first medical supplies. Huzzah. Just checking out. Oh yeah, there's another one. Wonderful. So let's go upstairs and press small I to check out what's there. So here we see there's a container, first aid kit box, 9 items hidden. So when you actually select it with the enter button, you see down here, there's contents of this pocket. So this includes a pair of scissors, antiseptics, medical gauze, adhesive bandages, and first aid instruction booklet, saline solution, bandages, and medical tape. Wonderful. But since I want the contents of that one and not the container itself, you can use the unload command here. So capital U, and we're going to select the first aid box, and let's do that twice to both of them. And now we have these items in our pocket. So I'm going to drop with capital D now these first aid kit boxes because I don't really need them anymore. You can, of course, keep them and do whatever with them, but okay. So pressing small W again to re-wield that weapon. Sometimes the game drops your items on the floor because you are overburdened and all these things. Keep in mind that you should never leave a location without your weapon in your hand. So let's see, pressing I again, and now as it seems I've got rid of all these pockets there. Wonderful. So we gained now what we needed. Antiseptics for the sake of survival. And let's see. Just wondering. What if I have not enough items on me? Did I leave one of those down there? Yeah, I accidentally left one of those first aid kit boxes down there, so. Now we do that one more time. Capital U to unload it. And while we're unloading it, we took the first aid kit box into our hands. This generally happens, judging from my experiences with the game, whenever you don't have enough room in your pockets to store that container. So after unloading the container, your character is being like, okay, and what should I do with that now? I'm not sure if that's really applying, but you get the idea. Just get rid of any containers you don't want to have. Here. So we now own the items here, and wait a sec. Didn't unload them again. All right, so I obviously was only capable of unloading it while it's on the ground. Sometimes inventory management is a little bit funky. You just redo until you are done. I guess in this scenario it had something to do with my inventory space being a little bit too low for the things I wanted to do. Just keep trying, and you will be succeeding at some point. If anything is too large for your inventory, you will notice that at some point when you're trying too hard to get into your pockets. Okay, so with these things said and done, we now got everything we need. And in the next episode, we're going to go deeper into the actual exploration there. So I am personally already kind of like abandoning this evac shelter because of the huge mantis right next door there. I am not too interested in making contact with that. All right, friends, so that's that. Now we know how to craft ourselves a weapon. How we put up a, well, now the shelter question is not fully ruled out yet, but we got weapons and medical supplies. And as long as you start with the evacuate start, you can always re-roll your start until you have these first aid kit boxes in your inventory. If you don't find any in your starting point like I did in this scenario, you can of course just scavenge somewhere else, but you're not always that lucky to have a second evac shelter in your vicinity, so it's no shame to just re-roll until you have one in the basement. Alright, so enough of that for today. Next episode, more exploration. I think we're going to get over to that motel. Can't wait. Thank you guys so much for watching. Questions, go down below. Leave a thumbs up on that video if you enjoyed and found that helpful. It will mean a lot to me and be very, very appreciated. And last but not least, consider subscribing to my channel. There's daily content coming up for you there. So just check it out. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.